Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Faith and Finance Forum hosted by the Catholic Finance Association and presented by Aquinas Wealth Advisors. We have a great show for you today. We are honored to welcome Chéri Ballinger. Hi, Chéri. How are you?
Hi, John. Great. Thank
Well,
you for
this
having me on.
it's our pleasure. You're welcome. Shall we start with a prayer?
Yeah.
In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Ghost, amen. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy
Holy
Mary,
Mary,
Mother of
Mother of
God,
God,
pray for
pray
us
for us
sinners,
sinners,
now and
now
at
and
the
at the
hour of
hour
our
of
death.
our death. Amen.
Father, Son, Holy Ghost, amen. Well, Chéri, this is a real treat for the Faith and Finance Forum. It's definitely the first time in this podcast history that we've ever talked to a guest from a trailer on a Hollywood set. How exciting is this?
Welcome to my production trailer, everyone.
Oh my gosh, I tell you, this is the stuff dreams are made of. Well, let's introduce Chéri to our audience a little bit. I have a bio to read out here. So, Sharia got her start in film while being discovered as a young girl and placed in the iconic 1998 remake of Walt Disney's classic The Parent Trap. She has worked in film steadily ever since, with her passion for her second chance in life after suffering from a severe TBI that stopped everything and resulted in 4 years of recovery. She is now back to work in the industry as a film producer. Cherie also is heavily involved and focused on her international philanthropy efforts, as well as being at the forefront of revolutionary medical technology. Not one to stifle her entrepreneurial spirit, she is at the helm of several conscious business startups to keep an eye out for. Stay tuned. A coveted international speaker, she is the official U.S. ambassador for the Women's Brain Project based in Switzerland and recently came on board with the Same You Foundation, founded by actress Emilia Clarke in the United Kingdom. She enjoys speaking everywhere around the world, from Harvard University to a Moms in the Middle group in the state of Indiana to the podium where Winston Churchill gave his 1946 speech in Zurich, Switzerland, so that all people can be reminded that day that life is a beautiful gift and we have the ability to overcome all the odds against us. Cherie's story is proof of just this, and she reminds people that miracles happen every day. Cherie has vowed to use her background, faith, and personal comeback story to bring people hope and to inspire positive change through business and the beautiful medium of film. She is one of the executive producers of the recently released feature film Roe vs. Wade, starring Jon Voight, which has enjoyed tremendous press and critical acclaim. She is currently working on several upcoming high profile productions with a desire to have her name and talent associated with films that reflect her passion for life and storytelling. Cherie Ballinger, what a pleasure to have you. Welcome again.
Thank you, John. And thank you for having me on. I'm very excited to be here. Thank you.
Well, tell us about your life story, where you grew up, what your family, what your childhood was like. We'd love to get to know you a little better.
Okay, well, I was actually born and raised in Southern California, and I grew up in a very small little town with my wonderful family. I actually have five brothers. They're all younger than me, and amazing childhood. I have to say, I have incredible parents, and my faith has really just always been there in my life. And my mom's family is French, and that's where we get our Catholic faith. And my dad converted. And, you know, I am so blessed. I am such a blessed woman and wonderful childhood and upbringing. And God has always been there for me in my life.
Cherie,
So,
I'm curious, as the oldest of six with the five younger brothers, did that teach you about leadership at a young age?
yes, I think that's definitely impacted my my personality and how I am. Um, you know, it's a lot. I mean, five younger brothers, and I'm the only girl and the oldest. So as you can imagine, I mean, I I hate to say, I call the shots,
Yeah, for sure.
and also very entrepreneurial at a young age too. My parents were having more and more kids, and so my dad was actually a police officer
Wow.
when I was little, and they just started having more kids, and so they had to do something else, and so my dad started his own business, and so he and my mom started this company, and so just there's a lot of entrepreneurial blood running in there, and also having a big family. It's just such a joy. I mean, people have no idea. I mean, it's such a great blessing, and I have a huge extended family too. I mean, it's amazing.
So I'm curious. Your dad was a police officer, and then he became an entrepreneur. What business did he get into?
So my parents started a telecommunications company, and but my dad was always very entrepreneurial as well. I mean, even when he was a policeman, and my grandparents owned a company, and everyone in my family seems to be like that. So I think it was a natural progression. But yeah, you learn a lot of things when you're young and you're around this kind of environment, and it definitely does shape and form you. And I feel very, very blessed that I had that at a young age.
Absolutely. And your faith was always a big part of your life, Cherie, or was there a time where, maybe you kind of drifted away from a little bit and then came back?
No, I'm actually, to be honest, I am so and I'll share with you why. I feel so blessed that it was so instilled in me since a young age, and I have to thank my mom for that, who is a saint, by the way. My mom is just ever. She's amazing. And we were raised the very traditional French Catholic way. And that has definitely shaped me. And I went to a very private traditional Catholic school growing up, which was another thing that really shaped my life. And I'm very thankful to my parents for. Was it difficult when I was growing up? Yes, it was. Did I like it? No, I didn't. But I thank my parents all the time now because I had such a great Catholic education, and I really truly learned my faith. And that has stayed with me my entire life. And my mom has always had a devotion to the rosary. And, growing up, I mean, we mass every Sunday, but also a lot of other things like having our Blessed Mother statue that would rotate into all the homes in the parish, all the families, and daily rosary, and just that kind of flourishing, faith filled life. And that was my childhood. And also on my mom's side, there's a lot of priests and nuns and religious. So I grew up around this. And gosh, looking back now, I think what a treasure that was.
Amen.
So, anyone listening, I mean, remember, like, your kids need that. It is so important because I look back on that time in my life when I was young. What a great blessing I was given. It was phenomenal. I feel so blessed. And that really shaped the course of my life and where I am now.
It does sound like you had a really fortunate start. I mean, you're growing up in Southern California. You have the best weather in the world. You clearly had a great family. You big, abundant, extended family. I mean, just this is great. So I'm curious. What were your activities like in your youth? I mean, were you a sports person? Were you always into the arts? How did you spend your time outside the classroom?
So I was actually quite academic. Um, I would like to to say I was kind of geeky, I think. But we all played sports, and having five brothers, I mean, you're outside a lot. And I'm really thankful that, I grew up when, you still drink water out of the hose. And, I was outside all the time with my brothers playing and riding bikes and things. And, there's something to be said for that, being outdoors and having that outdoor lifestyle, which again, I mean, I was very fortunate to have that opportunity. And, but sports, I mean, just picture this. I don't know how my mom did this, but there was a point in time when all six of us were in a soccer team and a baseball team.
Wow,
I mean, you live at the field, right? I
seriously,
mean,
wow.
yes, yes.
I'm curious. Are you and your siblings still close? I mean, does everybody still live in California? Do you see each other often, or?
We're all incredibly close. Not everyone still lives here. I have some brothers that are in other states right now, but more or less, everyone is pretty much. I mean, we're super close, so it doesn't matter where we are, really.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah.
Sheree, I'm curious because I mean, you've always been strong in your faith. It was a part of your life when you were younger. It's part of your life now. I'm curious. What do you think about methods to keep young people engaged with the faith. You know what I mean? Like, what would you say to maybe a young parent or a teenager that you were talking with, about staying strong in the faith, in a time where it seems like it's very difficult, especially for young people, to stay committed to their Catholic roots.
I could see how in this time right now that we're living in, how difficult that could be. But there's something to be said for really just making it a natural, normal lifestyle. I feel like sometimes people could make it like that it's this oppressive thing where it's out of duty, and no, it should never be that way. And I have to thank my mom for that. And I really encourage parents, especially young children right now, to just remember that there is such a joy that comes from knowing Christ, from having our faith. And children and young adults and young people, they need to feel that joy. And if they can have this sense that there's this joy that's attached to living a faith-filled lifestyle, I think that's really the key. Because all too often I feel like it's people can be so dutiful and oppressive. No, it's a joy to live a faith-filled life. We are so blessed to have traditions and beautiful, I mean, the richness of our faith, you will never stop learning about. It's just impossible, right? I mean, that's one of the beauties of Catholicism is you will never know everything. And how wonderful is that, right? You never stop learning.
That's so true, Sheree. And I'm wondering, with your natural inclination towards, academics and intellectual pursuits, if that's part of what got you fired up and kept you engaged, is just the limitless intellectual historical tradition of the Catholic Church that none of us could ever, learn completely. Is that part of what's going on? Is it just linked to your
Yeah,
natural
I mean,
intellectual curiosity, you think?
perhaps so. I mean, that is a good point. I mean, I do find it fascinating that there's just so much history and beautiful stories. And one thing I'll say too that's helpful that my mom did for us when we were kids is reading saint stories.
Yes.
And I remember before bedtime, my mom or my dad too would read us saint stories, just little ones before bed. And it's very inspiring. And again, that's just one of the tools that we have for our faith that kids just, they're sponges. And so you just suck that up and that stays with you all your life. I mean, it never goes away. And when you're young, as that's the time really to share with kids what a great blessing it is because not everyone has that blessing. So we have to remember that it is such a privilege and blessing to have our faith. And again, it's that joy that you have to radiate and emanate, you know?
It's such a different, I'm glad you used the term joy because that's the way to describe it, right? I mean, because, we live in a culture where I think, happiness and satisfaction are often defined by other things, right?
Right.
Stuff, clothes, jewelry, cars, power, you know what I mean? Like fame, popularity. These are things that might bring happiness, maybe, maybe not, but that's not the joy you're talking about, right, Sheree?
No, it's not. And, when you go through things in life, as we all do, because we all have a story, you come to realize that all of those things are so fleeting and they are not fulfilling. They really are not. I mean, they're fantastic and they could be good. And that kind of thing, it's not intrinsically bad, but it's how you live and what you have first in your life. And there is truly, as cliche as it could be, there is truly something to be said for having a God first life. It is just once you do that, the fulfillment then just trickles down because that's everything. If that's the top of your list.
And last question on on the faith before we move on to some other things, because I know it's just such a huge part of you who you are, and it just really exudes in everything you say. In terms of your practice of the Catholic faith right now, I mean, are there any particular faith practices or devotions or daily routines that you go through that you think are really keeping you focused on the Lord?
Yeah, I can't believe my life now, and I know we'll get into that in a little bit, but it's so crazy to me how crazy amazing my life is right now. And the thing that keeps me just balanced and focused and clarity of mind is making sure that daily prayer,
Mm,
preferably the rosary. I can't say that enough. I mean, so many saints have said this, and so we have a lot of backup on on how powerful the rosary is. But it just cannot be said enough. I mean, praying the daily rosary, making that time every day, making the time for prayer. I mean, that's what keeps me balanced, focused, that clarity, and you know, in those stressful times or unsure, uncertain times that we all have, that's what keeps me grounded. It's so important. And also, I will say too, daily mass as much as possible.
yes.
I mean, I try really hard to get to as many daily masses as I can. And when you start doing that, I mean, right? Like you can feel it. Like God is with you and you can accomplish anything. You really can.
Sheree, one of the common threads that we've had on all our guests on the Faith and Finance program have been, that they're all very busy people. I mean, they all have,
Yes.
a lot going on, professionally and personally. But it never strikes me more. I mean, like they always make time for the things you're talking about. That rosary, the daily mass, the daily prayer. I mean, it just you got to make time for it, right? It's like anything else. You got to plan it out. You got to think about when you're going to do it. Then you actually got to do it, right?
Yes. That's a really good point. My schedule's so hectic and crazy, but it's just like with anything else, like healthy eating or exercise. You've got to carve out that time. Otherwise, it's gonna permeate into that chaos that can come every day, can just permeate into everything else in your life, and nothing goes as smoothly or flows as nicely, you know, except when you make the time for God every day. And I'll be honest, it's like you said, it's not always easy when you're really busy. I mean, I'm the person who, I go to daily mass like later in the day, like in the evening, because I just can't pull it off in the morning. Or, my schedule's so crazy. But if you make the time, you carve out that time, no matter when it is, every day, you'll be thankful that you did, because especially people who have these full dance cards that I like to say, you got to make that time, because you need to have the clarity, you need to be able to make good decisions, right? I mean, especially when you are responsible for a lot of things or people, we want to make good decisions. And how can you do that if you don't have God at the center?
Well said. Cherie Ballinger is on the Faith and Finance Forum podcast. We're talking about faith and her career in the performance arts in Hollywood and all kinds of other good stuff. Thanks for being with us. Cherie, talk to us about how you got into show business. I mean, you're a top student. There's surely a number of industries you could have gone into, but you chose performance arts. Will you talk to us about that?
Well, I'd like to say that it actually chose me
That's great.
because it definitely was not my intention or goal, I'll say. Although I have varied interests, and I've always had a natural inclination for just, you know, the arts in general. I mean, I grew up watching old movies with my grandpa, and I was also always singing, and I grew up singing in church. So I've always had that natural attraction to the arts, but it's a great story. I'll share it very quickly for you. You know, I was, I don't know, maybe 11 or so. And my aunt, one of my aunts, knew that I loved the old Parent Trap, the Parent Trap from the 60s with Haley Mills. And I used to watch that when I was a little girl all the time. And so one day, my aunt sees this ad in the paper saying that Disney is going to remake The Parent Trap, and they were looking for some local girls to be a part of this epic remake, right? So my aunt sees this and she immediately thinks of me because she knew, how much I loved the old Parent Trap and all this stuff. So she shares it with me, and I was bored that summer. I mean, I was a little girl, and I had my my little brother take some Polaroids of me on some rocks outside, and I wrote a letter in like pink ink, and I sent this off, and I forgot about it. Well, a few months later, I was in school, and my mom gets a phone call from Disney, and they said, "We love your daughter. We have chosen her out of thousands upon thousands of applicants. We only chose a handful, and we just really want your daughter to be a part of this. It was life changing,
Wow.
absolutely life changing.
That's
And
amazing. Oh my god,
amazing.
thousands of applicants, you got it. I mean, like, that must have been
It's
incredible.
amazing.
How old were you at that point?
I was probably like maybe 11 or 12, somewhere around there.
Oh my gosh. I mean, were you even able to kind of register the magnitude of this? I mean, how
Not
significant this was?
really.
Yeah, yeah.
No, I mean, I was
Wow.
so young.
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, I'm literally pulled out of school and I'm on a Disney set, like tutors for like months. It was Lindsay Lohan's first movie.
Oh my gosh.
It was this epic film, and it was the first time I had ever been on a film set. So I mean, go big or go home, right? I mean,
Right. Yeah.
it was a huge production, and the experience of an absolute lifetime. But even at a young age, I saw how you know um everything is an illusion. Films, it's an illusion, it's not real.
Hmm.
And I saw that, and I loved my time doing that. It definitely affected me all my life. But after it was done, it it ended up being like the everyone has it in their libraries. It was like the top film of the year when it came out. It was just this crazy amazing thing. But after that, I never pursued it. I went back to being in school, and
Hmm.
I mean, I was a nerd. And so I was like, oh, that was great, that was fun. And then let me tell you something. When God has your destiny in his hands, there's no stopping that. Because fast forward to, a number of years later, I was out of high school. I graduated early. I was going to college, and I was working at a golf resort. And there was this one morning where these people came in and they said that they were casting for some commercial or something. And they asked if they could film me. And I said, sure, would you like an iced tea or something? And I mean, I didn't even think anything about it. And they filmed me. A few days later, I get this phone call, and I got booked for a national Callaway golf commercial with Arnold and Palmer.
Come on.
No joke.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
And after that, I was immediately made SAG. I mean, it was a huge thing. And, at that point, I was in my early 20s, and everyone thought I was a model anyways. And so
Mm,
I thought, these things keep happening to me. So I should probably do it. I could
right.
probably make some good money. And everyone thinks it anyway. So I might as well pursue it. So it just kind of was this natural progression, if you will. And after that, I ended up having a very great steady job as the official spokesmodel for a beauty company.
Mm,
And they flew me around the world like for years.
wow.
And then in between then, I would take, I would do commercials, take commercial roles, print jobs. So I was working as a model and an actress, and I did a few movie roles, some more. And I was just, and I put myself through college all through this,
Cool.
and just doing my thing. And it was just this natural progression. Everything was good. It was like that was what I was meant to do. But
Amazing. Yeah. Wow. That's great. I'm a Callaway man myself, so I feel better
really,
about that now. Yeah. Yeah. Big Bertha and the whole line. That's great. What was yeah? Any impressions of Arnold Palmer? I mean, he's quite a legend. I assume you got to work with him a little bit, right?
he was so sweet to me.
Yeah.
He was very, very kind. And I played the role of a beverage cart girl.
Nice.
And I just remember him just being really, really nice. He was really sweet. I mean, I was young. I mean, I knew he was a big deal, but to be honest, I mean, it wasn't like everyone else was like, whoa, but he was just really nice, and it was fun. But it ended up being this huge deal, and you know, it's just another thing that just set the course for my life. So, you know,
Yeah, no, no, it's interesting. So, I mean, is that typical of the life of an actor and actress in their 20s? I mean, you kind of go from like the commercial work where I imagine the volume is fairly large, right? I mean, there's a lot of commercials being made, et cetera. And then, parts in movies and TV shows come up, and occasionally you get an opportunity with one of those. Is that kind of the cadence of the life of a young actor or actress? Or
To be perfectly honest, there is no cadence for
okay,
anyone. Everyone is so different. It
okay,
is like the most volatile business, I think, in the world. I mean,
hmm,
it's a crazy industry. And I had no idea, to be honest, because I grew up watching old movies.
yeah,
So I had this very, like, idealistic version in my head of what Hollywood was. And I had had things just kind of land in my lap. And I had no idea until I was actually like working in it, like, oh, wow, this is really difficult, and
sure.
but I will say this, and this goes back to what we were talking about previously. My faith,
Hmm,
without my faith and that foundation I had as a young girl,
hmm,
I would definitely not have been the way I am. I mean, I was known as the good Catholic girl
wow.
all through my working years, but that was only because I had such a strong foundation.
Hmm,
That's why, I have compassion for especially these actors and young people in this business, because it's a very crazy world.
hmm.
And if you don't have that foundation and rudder, that your faith, I mean, wow, I mean, there's so many things that happen. And I again, God's hand was definitely on me. And once again, I mean, I can't say it enough. I mean, how blessed I feel, because my faith really has saved me a number of times. So,
No,
you
this
know,
is interesting, and I think this is a topic of great interest to our audience. I mean, so I mean, you're out in Hollywood, you're in your 20s, you're doing film roles, commercials, you're working as an actress, and I mean, you were very out about your Catholicism. People knew you were practicing Catholic. I mean, how alone did you feel? I mean, were there any other Christians or Catholics kind of in that culture? I mean, how rare were you?
very good question. Very alone.
Wow.
Very alone.
Hmm.
Super alone. Um, during that period of time, I mean, it was really difficult. I mean, the way that I kind of coped was I was so busy,
Hmm.
and I was putting myself through college. So, I was really busy with school, and I was very fortunate because a lot of people in this industry, they don't have a steady thing. So that's why you find, like, you're waiting tables or something. And I didn't have to do that because I had this very steady job as a spokesperson for a beauty line.
Hmm.
So for me, that was my steady work. And then I would just take these other roles that, would come my way, that I was blessed with, when they came. But I always had that steady job where there was no compromise with my faith with that. But I came across a number of things where, I had to say I turned down a lot of things.
Hmm.
I turned down a lot of work.
Hmm.
And you know, I could see, when these actors and actresses and models, they're like starving, they have no foundation or rudder. They say yes to these things that come
Hmm.
their way. I mean, that's what happens in this
Hmm.
business. And I will say
Why did you
too,
say no to the things? I'm curious. Why did you say no to opportunities?
for me, my my thing that was always in my head is if I couldn't show my grandparents, then I probably shouldn't be doing it.
Wow.
I had so much respect for my grandparents,
Mm.
and I was very close to them, and especially my grandpa. I mean, if I did something that I couldn't show him, then that was kind of my baseline
Wow.
as a young person,
Great standard.
you know?
Yeah.
But again, I mean, I don't say this like it was easy. It wasn't. I was very alone.
Mm.
And that leads me up to my story. I was doing fine, and by all superficial worldly standards, it seemed like I was on top of the world and
Mhm.
had everything. But
Mhm.
it was very lonely.
Well, and let's get into that because a big part of your story, like you say, is your second chance that you talk about so frequently, and your recovery from a tragedy. So will you share a little bit about that with us, Sherry?
Yeah. So, this is a good lead up into this, John, because, here I was flying everywhere. I did graduate from college. I had all these things going for me. And, you know, I would be at, a beauty show or something for this beauty line I was a spokesperson for. And I would sneak out of dinners or something because I would always look to see where was the nearest Catholic church to go to mass on the
I love it.
weekends.
That's
And
great.
they would be like, "Where's Cherie going?" You know, but I was always alone. I mean,
Oh
the
wow.
reality is it was lonely. It
Yeah.
really was. And I was getting to a point where, okay, is this what do I still keep doing this? Is this what I'm going to be like forever? I still hadn't found, or I should say, God didn't send me my husband yet. So, I wasn't there yet. That's what I wanted. And there was just, I was just kind of feeling like a little bit lost. And so then fast forward to February 11th of 2014. And February 11th is the feast day of Our Lady of Lourdes.
Of course.
And me being raised a French Catholic, I have a great devotion to Our Lady of Lourdes and Rosary. And so on that particular day, I was booked to shoot a major movie poster at a studio. And so I was in the car driving to the studio. And on my way to work that morning, I actually prayed several rosaries in honor of this great feast day. Again, guys, remember, pray the rosary every day. So I get to the studio and, I'm going to give you the shorter version just out of respect for it because I speak now around the world about this. But um, to give the shorter version, I had a major accident. I fell from about 7 feet onto the back of my head on concrete, and I sustained a traumatic brain injury. And, you know, we were talking earlier about how these other things don't give fulfillment. In that moment, nothing else that you think matters, like matters. My life just stopped. And again, shorter version here. I had to learn how to walk again, how to talk again. I lost my memory. Um, my whole life just stopped. And see, it doesn't matter. Even when I get the shorter version, I get emotional because I know without a doubt that our Blessed Mother spared my life that day. And I tell people that now all the time because the doctors couldn't figure out why was I not paralyzed and or dead. And for everyone listening, I cannot express enough how important it is to pray every day because you don't know what's going to happen every day. Every single day of life is a beautiful gift. And everything that I had planned, everything that I had scheduled, everything just went out the window. And so here I am, traumatic brain injury. Thank God for my family. They took care of me. And I had to learn how to do everything again. I was in every therapy you can imagine, speech therapy, physical therapy, everything you can imagine. And I was down for 4 years, which is a really long time. And a lot happens in 4 years. A lot changes. And for me, my life had just stopped. And I was completely dependent upon my family and everything that I felt like I had worked for or had wanted in life. I felt like that was just thrown out the window. And I would I mean, I'm going to be honest. I mean, I was mad at God. Like, why you spared my life. I'm thankful, but why am I still here? Am I gonna I was told by the doctors that I would never have another chance at life again. So, why am I still here? What is the purpose? I felt like I was a burden. Everyone has to do things for me, and I had to relearn everything. It was a horrible. It was something I would never wish on anyone. And again, I'm giving the shorter version, John. But you know, uh, like He always does, God worked a great miracle, and through the grace of God, I actually, after 3.5 years, someone had referred me to a naturopathic doctor, and after that, there was finally a glimmer of hope and light at the end of the tunnel, which I was told, would never be there. And I suddenly started to get better against all the odds, and it was miraculous. I mean, there's no other word for that. And shortly after that, is what I like to tell people was my surrender moment. And I have to share, like I said, out of respect just for everyone who, I go and speak live now around the world, but I want everyone listening to know that this is very important, because we all have to reach this point of surrender in life. And I don't just have a story. We all do. We all go through things. We all will. But until you completely surrender to God, I mean, you're not going to know what is His mission for you and what His plan is for you. And I felt like I had never really totally done that. And suddenly I find myself better. And after 4 years, a lot changes. Like I said, there's a new president. There's a thing called Uber invented.
Crazy. Wow.
There's a lot of things that I had friends meet someone, get married, have a baby. I mean, meanwhile, I'm like bedridden and throwing up
Oh my
every day
gosh.
for 4 years. And
Hey,
it's
Sherry,
like,
real quick, just for our audience's benefit, what was the duration? Was it like 2012, 2016? What were the years you were out?
2014
Okay.
to 2018.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah,
And
a lot happened in that stretch.
a
I mean,
lot
that was
happened.
a
Yes,
consequential stretch. Yeah.
yes. And a lot changes. And suddenly I'm better. And it's like, okay, what do I do now? And let me tell you something, like, when you've been given a second chance at life, which is what it was, you don't want to go back into Hollywood.
I bet.
You don't,
Yeah.
and I was very mindful and conscious of what God had done for me, because like I said, the doctor said I will never have another chance at life again.
Wow.
So I never anticipated this. And so I'm finally better. Okay. I remember this one night, I'm in my parents' back porch, and I just started bawling. I was crying, and I was looking up at the sky, and I just I had I just I reached that point, had enough, and I just said, "Father, wherever you want me to go, I'll go. Whatever you want me to do, I'll do it. You got to show me the way, because I have no idea why you've given me this chance of life."
Mm.
And
Wow.
I in that moment, I mean, it was like complete total surrender, because
Yes.
I really truly didn't know what was I was supposed to do.
Wow.
And I was willing at that point, like, whatever you want me to do, God.
Wow.
And that's
So
a
humble.
hard thing to do, right?
Yes.
It's tough, because we always want what we want, and
Yes.
it's easy to say, "Oh no, God's will be done," but we still inside, like,
That's right. Yep.
we've got a plan, right?
Yep.
And there were a lot of things in my life I had wanted to have happen by then, and never did for me. And so I always felt like, I don't, I reached that point. Okay, God, you show the way. Really, just show me the way, because I have no idea now. And let me tell you something. sometimes God's slow, but sometimes he works fast. Because literally, um, a few weeks after that night, um, my mom, so my parents had been in contact with this nonprofit called
Mm,
Pink Concussions,
okay.
and they were very helpful because they were an advocate for women and girls who had had any kind of brain trauma, brain injuries, and
Mm,
concussions. And a lot of my symptoms were very female specific, and the doctors just didn't know what to do with me. And so they were very helpful because everyone else who was talking to them had all the same things I was dealing with. And so my parents had been in contact with them. So they call up my mom and they say, "Hey, we're so inspired by Cherie's story and what she's gone through, and also how she's just recently been able to get better. We would love to invite you to bring her to speak at the National Institute of Health in DC."
wow. It's a
I
big
mean,
deal. Yeah.
I go from this to like being invited to DC. I mean, that's wild, right?
That's wild. Wow.
And at this point, you have to think. I mean, I had to learn how to talk again.
Right.
I was out of the world, so was not confident at all, and my ability to have conversations with people, I was very awkward and nervous and shy. And I was still, I wasn't 100%. I was definitely better, but at that time, I was not 100% by any
Wow.
means. I was just much better than what I had been, which was really
Right. Just
cool.
making progress. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I was terrified, absolutely terrified. And the thought of talking to people, oh my gosh, that was so scary to me because I was just in my little town, my parents' house, all these years. And if I had talked to anyone, I was just like, I was very medicated. So, this was a very huge deal. But I knew just deep down inside, okay, I had surrendered to God and I did know that I wanted to help people. I knew that inside. And so I thought, okay, this is definitely where God is calling me to go. I got to go. I'm just going to suck it up and do it. So my mom and I fly to DC. Crazy. I speak at the National Institute of Health. My story resonates with so many people. There's doctors, researchers, all these people there. And I talk about things that really people haven't talked about before. And they're still studying. And it ended up being very successful. And while I was there, there were these people who saw me, and they were just starting a nonprofit in Switzerland called the Women's Brain Project. So because I did this thing in DC, they contacted me, and the next thing you know, John, I'm on a flight to Switzerland, and I am the U.S. ambassador of the Women's Brain Project in Switzerland.
I love it. So cool. Wow. Amazing.
That's
Ambassador.
God.
Yeah. Wow.
That's God. And
That's amazing.
I thought, okay, this feels good because I want to help people because I know that how I got better was so miraculous, and there's so many people who did not have the care and love and support that I had with my family and my faith. And so I have a lot of compassion for people dealing with these kinds of things. It's called the silent injury because you can't see it, but brain injuries, that's the computer of your body,
Mm,
it affects everything.
it's a tough one. Yeah.
It's a tough one. And so I knew that I wanted to help people. And I don't want anyone to have to go through what I did because it was just so horrific. So I'm thinking, okay, this feels good. I US ambassador here talking about it. But then I need a job, right?
Right. Yeah.
What am I supposed to do? I'm like praying, like, God, what do you want me to do? So I thought, okay, I need a job. So during my time, when I was in speech therapy all those years, recovering, my speech therapist had me keep my Twitter account, and that was the only social media I had had. And so she would help me with that. And that was my way of learning words again and how to type again. And, I had to learn how to do literally everything again. So I had this Twitter account, right? So I see on Twitter that they're making this movie called Roe v. Wade that tells the true story of this historic court case. And it's going to be this fantastic film. It's in the works. Um, and I thought, wow, good for them. Good for them. They're making this. This is fantastic.
Yeah, totally.
And I thought, okay, well, I did get a degree in communications, pre TBI. And I thought, okay, maybe they need someone behind the computer. I mean, this is my thought process, which is so stupid looking back. Like, why did I even think this? So I actually sent them a message on Twitter, and I just said, hey, if you guys need any help, and I shared just like who I was. And I'm pro life, and I love, where you're going with this. If you need any help behind the computer or Twitter, something stupid like that, I send this message over, right? Okay. I forget about it. A few months go by. I get this message and then a call from the lead filmmaker, Nick Loeb. Fantastic guy. We have this conversation. I want you to come on board. Have you ever thought about
Wow.
being a producer? Come on board with us.
It's awesome. Nick Loeb is a good
And
guy, by the way. Good man.
good man, very good man. And when he said those things, I instantly knew, okay, this is what God was asking me to
Mm.
do, because I never in a million years thought about that at all.
So
I mean,
cool. Wow.
never crossed my mind ever,
Oh my gosh.
ever. And but I will say this, and I'm ashamed of this, but it has to be said out loud. There was this very split-second moment where I thought in my mind, if I do this movie, everyone's gonna know. Like, I mean, because I had always been this good Catholic girl, but I was under the radar. I wasn't like,
Mm.
very bold about
Hmm.
it or anything. Um, I thought if I do this movie, everyone's gonna know because I am such a devout Catholic.
Right.
And then immediately in my mind, I thought, I'm sorry, God. Why would I even question? You've done everything. You gave me a second chance at life.
Wow.
Who cares
Oh my
what
gosh.
people think? Who cares? Because with God, all things are possible.
Thank you for being open to sharing that. I mean, that's so personal, But you're right. It's almost like it reminds me of the figures in the Bible, that had been so blessed, to walk with Jesus, etc. But
Right?
sometimes denied him or sometimes didn't live up to that, everything in the
Yeah.
beginning. I mean, for you to share that, that's just very very raw. Thank you. Wow.
Well, thank you for allowing me to,
Mm.
because it's important, because I know I'm not the only one. And we all have to make these decisions, right? And I'm ashamed of that, but it's important to say out loud, because this has been such a part of my journey. And I feel so incredibly blessed because I have been given a second chance at life. And that is only by the grace of God. Only.
Everyone, we're talking to Cherie Ballinger, and our audience should know that she's given us the short version of some of these remarkable events in her life. She's got a long version that she loves to talk about, and she's a celebrated and coveted speaker out on the circuit. So be sure to look her up for your next event. She gives an amazing talk that is deeply moving and very highly rated. Cherie Ballinger on the Faith and Finance Forum podcast. Cherie, one of the reasons we want to talk to you, in addition to all the stuff we've covered so far that has been so rich, is the doctors told you that you weren't going to have a second chance at life, and that life was probably going to be very very different for you moving forward. You clearly proved them wrong in big ways. We've already talked a few of those, but it's very. I want to explore a little bit with you your entrepreneurial life, because you have become a successful film producer, and you're deeply engaged in all aspects of the business of performing arts in Hollywood and film now. You actually have 5 movies you're involved in right now. Talk to us a little bit about your current life as an entrepreneur and a businesswoman, walking in your family's footsteps, by the way, which is so cool.
Well, thank you for that, John. And Yeah, it's phenomenal how I've gotten to this point. And yeah, I'm working on all of these movies right now. And it really has been just this organic journey where I really feel like God has given me this mission of normalizing values again,
Hmm.
especially in film, which affects our culture. And, you know, sure, there's a lot of faith based movies being made and stuff, but we need to make mainstream movies that are high quality, that are good, that normalize values, the human condition, and be really back in there. Think back, just picture this for a second. In the year 1965, the movie The Sound of Music won 5 Academy Awards, including Best Picture and Best Director.
Wow.
And that was a beautiful story, but what was about it had our faith in it, right?
Hmm.
Normal, it's normal. We have to get back to that. And I really feel like right now, the times we're living in, it's so easy to be negative, right? But I see this as such a positive, beautiful time to be alive, because right now we are living in beautiful times. We have the ability to truly swing the pendulum back the other way and normalize values again. I like to say make movies great again. Let's do it. And so I'm really involved with, I'm in mainstream Hollywood. I don't package myself. I'm not a faith-based producer or anything. I'm produce make great films again. I mean, why can't we do that? I just happen to be also it's about Catholic. But it's the thing about living our faith in action, right? Because we're supposed to be the light in the world, the light of Christ. And whether that's in business, where I'm always trying to pair things with a charity. So I'm working on a number of companies right now where part of it's going to go to a charity. Also, all of the movies I'm involved in right now, I'm making it so that our funding doesn't come from China, which, um, many people don't realize that's where the funding for all of these films are coming from. And that's why they're beholden to certain things in these movies. So if we can control the funding, we can control the content and make it beautiful. And so I'm involved heavily in that. And really, God has put me in these beautiful places now to affect this change. And it starts with every one of us. No matter what someone's workplace is, no matter what your gifts and talents that God has given you, we're supposed to use them for good. Because money is not intrinsically evil. Success is not intrinsically evil. No. I always go back to there are incredible saints who were kings and queens.
Yeah. Amen.
And what did they do? They used their influence, their power, their wealth for doing great things for God
Mm.
and for his church.
Really well said. Yes.
And that's what I'm all about. I want to bring classy back. I want to bring values back. I want to have everything done to glorify God and his church so that we can bring others with us. Because at the end of the day, we get this one life. Some of us get second chances. I'm very blessed to have had that. But we get this one shot at life. So it's like, what are you going to do with it? Do as much good as you can, do it for God. And also that joy aspect, put joy into it, because when you have the light of Christ in your life, you can't help but smile and be joyful and positive. And like I said, I'll say it again, it's very easy to be negative right now in these times we live
True.
in. But I always go back to the verse Esther 4:14. You were born for such a time as this.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Cherie, bringing classy back. What does that mean? What does it mean to bring classy back?
You know, everything stems from God, right? True beauty, true art, um, everything that is pure and beautiful and good always stems from God. And that's why there's a certain element of classiness, of elegance that comes from virtue, from goodness. It all stems from God. That's why the arts, I mean, you see these beautiful paintings or the beautiful films that we've seen in the past. Art that's good, it's all stems from the one true source, right? And so classiness is just an embodiment of that. It has nothing to do with, you know, I think a lot of times our culture today, it's this weird twisted thing where they say, oh, you're better than someone, or no, it's actually about having respect for yourself and for others, respect for life, which we know, I mean, when there's no respect for life, there's no respect for anything then,
That's
right?
right.
So we have to get back to respecting ourselves and others for life, which is a beautiful gift from God. And so it's all encompassing, and it comes down to this class and elegance, and it's really just the light of Christ in the world, and we have to bring it back. I mean, it's time to bring it back. Let's
Yeah,
do it.
hey man, I'm right behind you. Sheree, help me out with something. Just your expertise in the film industry and the sector of the economy. I mean, do you think we're capped out in terms of the potential of Christian and Catholic films? I mean, some of them have really been very successful. I mean, the Chosen Project, for instance, has really taken off, and others have been successful in recent years. How much more do you think there is potential for additional projects like that? Do you think we're close to the cap, or do you see all kinds of blue skies still ahead?
Oh, I see so many blue skies ahead. I mean, I have so many projects in the works right now, and there's a number of others that are just waiting to be made. And I'm not talking about cheesy films. I'm not about that. I'm mainstream Hollywood. I'm talking about exceptional acting, A-list actors, A-list filmmakers, and cinematography, and all the things that make beautiful art, right? The sky is the limit because they're waiting to be told. And they, like I said earlier, they don't have to be like this in this faith-based genre. It just has to be good, right?
Right. Yeah.
Because the young people, they're not going to go to the movie theater to see a faith-based film. No, they're going to go see the latest movie, right? So why
Totally.
don't we make the latest movies filled with good art, goodness, normalizing values, movies that make you think. It can be done, and I just feel very passionate about this mission. And I have some beautiful, beautiful stories. I mean, really, the sky's the limit. We are nowhere near the cap.
Sheree, let me ask you this. I mean, and you referenced this briefly. Attracting top talent, big name stars to be a part of Christian, Catholic, values based films, or at least values aligned, films. Like you said, they're still going to be mainstream films. They're just going to be, have traditional values woven into them. I mean, how difficult is it to get, today's, big stars, big talent to participate in these kinds of movies? I mean, do they want to be a part of these, or do they sometimes feel resistant from the dominant Hollywood culture?
No, you know what? They want to be a part of them.
Wow, great.
And I won't say any names, but I know a lot of them who want to be a part of them. And so there is no issue there. So that's why I am really a part of this movement, if you will. And like I said, a lot of it comes down to the funding. You know, if we can control that, then we can control the content.
Hmm.
And, Hollywood, they need to have great movies. And, if we produce a great movie with, top notch talent and all the bells and whistles, as we should, um, they're not going to deny that if it makes them money, and it will, because that's what people want right now. People are tired of what's been coming out. They're tired of it. And so let's give them what they want. And we have to do this a certain way, but I'm up for the challenge. And so I can tell you there's a lot of top-notch talent that just they're clamoring for this as well. So
No shortage of courage for Chéri Ballinger. That is for sure. Your life has proven that. It seems like a lot of, and we've touched upon this in our previous conversations. I'd like to explore it a little bit with you. It seems like the shortcut that a lot of Hollywood studios are taking right now is to go to Chinese capital, right? I mean, that's kind of the easy way, right? Talk to us about that dynamic and why you're concerned about that.
well, it's like with everything else, with other businesses too. You know what I mean? If you are funded by a certain organization, they have some say and they're calling the shots, so to speak. And that's really what has been happening in Hollywood. And they more or less are funding and are owning the studios. And they're saying that X, Y, and Z has to be in here. This has to be this way, and there's not much that you could do about that when they're doing the funding, right? But if we can do it in such a way where we have the funding where it's us, the body of Christ, and we're in deep in the trenches and we make it happen, we can cut those cut those bypasses, so to speak, but still be in the mainstream. I mean, if that makes sense. We can still make these mainstream films, but we have more of the control. And it has been proven and it has been working. I mean, you mentioned The Chosen earlier. That's a really good example. Um, and they've made tons of money and they have been extremely successful. And that was crowdfunding. And so all these different, things are popping up because people are seeing what's been happening. And it's really comes down to what I'm saying is that a lot of people don't realize that these outside funding sources like China, for the most part, are really calling the shots. And uh, there's a lot to be said for that. So we have to get out of that. And it is a process. I mean, the great things in life are never easy, right?
That's right.
Right. But that's okay. I mean, I'm up for the challenge. And I know that there's a lot of people who, they want to, or they should, but they want to put their money to good use. And it's up to us, right? Like where do we put our funding? Where do we put our money? Where do we put our time, our talent, our treasure?
Yeah.
And it should all be for good.
Totally, Sheree, and I just want to jump in on this because you look at the direction of a lot of Catholic philanthropy and benefactors' contributions appropriately are going to projects like higher education, schools, other projects that are intended to kind of reform the culture and kind of make some changes. I think it's probably time for us to recognize that film, television, mass media is an absolutely critical place for that too. If we hope for the rising generation to encounter good messages and to have to make the world classy again and bring values back and some of the messages you shared. I mean, I'm a father of two young children. I want them to be able to enjoy movies and enjoy media the way I did growing up, but I prefer if it be somewhat wholesome, somewhat decent.
Yeah.
That's what you're working on, right, Sheree? That's your focus.
Yes, that's right. And you know what? That's an excellent point, John, because yes, I mean, money should go towards education and higher education. And, as I said earlier, I mean, my foundation in Catholic education was so crucial,
That's right.
not just inside the home, but out. But we cannot ignore the fact that media plays such a huge part of our lives, whether we like it or not, whether we shut it off or not, your kids are going to encounter it and it shapes our society as a whole. It's not just us, it's the people around us. So we just cannot ignore it. Like sometimes I feel like there's this inclination, if you will, to just kind of turn the other way, force filled against that, oh, we're not going to watch anything. It's not going to affect us. But no, it does, whether directly or indirectly, it does affect all of us. And we have to be out there in the mainstream culture. We have to make changes. We have to be the ones that affect the change. We cannot ignore this element of society. It's
And
too important.
agreed. And after all, the stories that come out of the Judeo-Christian, story and heritage are the best stories of all, right? The stories of the Bible
Yes.
have survived thousands of years for a reason, right?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Um, like I said, there is no cap. I mean, there are endless stories to be told. And think of all the greats. I mean, I love the stories of the saints. Think of
Indeed,
all the great saint stories. I
that's
mean,
right.
oh,
Joan of Arc. You should make a Joan of Arc movie. How great would
Joan
that
of
be?
Arc. There you go. There you go. I love that. I love that energy.
Oh my gosh. Well, Sheree, as we wrap our time together, I mean, I just really, I'm so impressed with how far you've come so quickly. I mean, just a few years ago, you were told that it was more or less over in terms of living a normal life, the life that you knew before, and you've totally rebounded from that in a huge way. You're better than ever. You're doing such amazing things. I'm just curious, what's your forecast or your outlook, both for the sector that you're engaged in films and in media and movies, but also for our broader culture. I mean, I know you're naturally optimistic and you're bullish about all this, but what does the next 10 years look like, for the sector that you're focused on, for our society? Where do you see all this going?
Well, thank you, John. You know, yes, I am naturally optimistic and positive, and that's true. But I truly do believe that we are living in such interesting times right now. And there is a reason why God has placed us in this time right now. And whether things get worse, which I mean, it is hard to imagine if that's the case, right? But they could. Um, Regardless of that, I really truly feel that living in these times, we are called to really truly be the light in the world. Because now, more than ever, I think before, like I said, these are interesting times. More than ever before, we need to bring people hope, hope, love, positivity. That all comes from God, from our faith. And so many people are hopeless right now. They're hopeless. And, I know that there was this pandemic, and for me personally, it didn't affect me too much because I was down and out of the world for 4 years, and it was horrific. So this was like nothing in comparison. However, I have so much compassion for people because it's it's tough out there, and I understand. I get it. I've been in those dark, deep places, the darkest that you could be in. And I think that when I speak now, and I speak now around the world, and I share my story in a lot more depth, and people are just, they're clamoring for this hope. They're clamoring for this. But what they are clamoring for is God. And become, as a society as a whole, so godless. But we know what people need. They need God, they need hope, they need Him. And so, yes, things are tough out there. And I understand. And whether or not they get worse or not, I don't think it matters. I think the focus that we should have is on bringing people this hope and light, and what we could do as a people of faith, what we could do as people who are game changers in business, leaders in business, in finance, in the arts, entrepreneurship, whatever, education, no matter what sector you are in the world right now, you've got to make sure that you are the light in this world because people need that right now. And it's up to us to bring that. So, in closing, yes, it's tough out there. Yes, I get it. Like I said, it's easy to be very negative and to think it's going to get worse. And maybe it will, and maybe it will. But who cares? Who cares? Because guess what? With God, all things are possible. And with Him, when you're with Him, who could be against us, right?
So good, and sure, you are certainly the source of light that you call for, and you live those values each and every day. Sheree, this has been such an honor and a privilege to speak with you. Thank you so much for spending some time with me and our audience today. For those of us that would like to get to know you better and learn more about the causes that you champion, where should we direct them to?
Well, John, thank you very much. I mean, likewise, it's been my great pleasure to be on here with you today. And thank you for allowing me to share my story and everything. And if people would like to know more, they can visit my website, which is very simple. It's cheriballinger.com. And yeah, and if anyone wants to get involved in any of my causes, nonprofits, any of my movies, I truly do believe that we are stronger together. So with God at the helm, I mean, the sky is the limit, really.
Sheree, you're on your way, and we look forward to following the continued ascent of your career and all the causes that you're behind. Just God bless you. You're a great American. You're a great person. You're doing such good things for our country and the church, and we are behind you, and we'll be praying for you.
Thank you
So,
very much.
Cherie Ballinger has been with us on the Faith and Finance Forum podcast, hosted by the Catholic Finance Association and presented by Aquinas Wealth Advisors. We've been talking with Cherie Ballinger. Thank you all. Have a blessed Lent and a happy Easter.
Happy Easter. God bless.